How are all of you lovely people doing today? My name is John, and welcome to another fantastic zombies commentary. Let's talk about blood vials. They're a relatively new thing in the zombie storyline. They were introduced on the map Origins. We noticed Richtofen was carrying two peculiar blood vials. What was interesting about them were the numbers. They had the identification numbers of two Mob of the Dead characters, 386A, which was the cell number of Salvador De Luca, as well as 481B, which corresponded to Finn O'Leary. It was pretty interesting that he carried these blood vials, but there wasn't any mention of them later on in the zombie storyline. He just continued to carry them as he went about his business. Then when we played Zetsuba no Shima, Richtofen teleported our characters to an unknown location that was off the original plan. When they returned, they each carried their own blood vials. However, these blood vials did not have any sort of number or identification to them, so we don't know where these blood vials came from. He referred to them as some sort of insurance policy though, which makes us think that if something goes wrong when shit hits the fan, these blood vials will be used, and that's what makes them so important. The thing is, what if they weren't a new thing in the zombie storyline? I was listening to Richtofen quotes one day for a previous video when I stumbled upon something pretty interesting. Take a listen.
I can save vials of their blood for later.
So here we have Richtofen explicitly mentioning blood vials. I don't know when he says this. He says this on the map Kino Der Toten, but he could say it after he kills a zombie, he could say it after anything, so it's really hard to nail down the context of this quote. It's still interesting nonetheless. Blood vials didn't enter the zombie storyline until 2013, and this map was released in 2010, and this quote could have been written as far back as 2009 because Kino Der Toten was originally planned to be DLC 4 for World at War. If this is the case, if this quote stems back to 2009, then could Treyarch have possibly been planning the incorporation of blood vials into the zombie storyline since Kino Der Toten, maybe even since Der Riese? Well, it's really hard to say. I believe there's two types of zombie theorists out there. There's zombie realists and there's zombie optimists. Now, I consider myself in the camp of zombie realists. I say that Treyarch has not been planning things as far back as 2008, as far back as 2009. I believe that in the early days of the zombie storyline, pretty much from World at War through Black Ops and maybe even a little bit of Black Ops 2, they were just kind of making it up as they went along. Sure, they would plant little ideas and then come back to them eventually, but they had no real solid direction for the storyline. Now there's zombie optimists who may say that they've been planning this since the very beginning. They specifically left things in the map. They were referencing future maps, they were referencing future events in their previous maps, and everything they've done is deliberately for the future. Now, you can take both interpretations of the zombie storyline how you like. Personally, I consider myself in the realist camp, or you can be in the optimist camp. Either way, here we have Treyarch explicitly incorporating blood vials into the storyline as far back as Kino Der Toten. Why would Treyarch do this? Could it be that Treyarch did this to sort of plant a seed, to establish it, and come back to the idea later? Or maybe did they know that this whole time Richtofen was going to use the blood vials later on in the zombie storyline in its final act as he is with the Primus crew? Now, like I said, I'm not really of that camp. I believe Treyarch kind of just threw this in and said, hey, blood might be important, but let's not really focus on that. I want to focus on these other things, and maybe one day we'll come back to them. And here we are now finally coming back to the blood vials, as it appears they are Richtofen's insurance plan. It's still pretty fascinating that Treyarch would include this into the game, and when I was listening to the quotes and I heard Richtofen say that, I'm like, oh my god, he did not just mention blood vials. I was pretty blown away. I was like, what? I couldn't believe it at first. So what I did after that was I did some digging. I did go around and listen to all the quotes from Shi no Numa, as well as Der Riese and Ascension, to see if Richtofen ever mentioned blood vials again, and he did not. This is the only instance of blood vials being mentioned in World at War or Black Ops 1. What I then did was go look around all the maps. I no-clipped and I snooped around for anything that could be remotely related to blood vials. Maybe blood vials just kind of floating around, maybe a syringe with blood in it, nothing. There is no blood anywhere to be found that could resemble a blood vial. However, There are little jars of blood that you can find on Deriz, or at least I assume they're blood. They could be any kind of red liquid. So it's weird. Treyarch only puts one instance of blood vials into the game, and Richtofen says he'd use them for later, which appears to be the same thing he's doing now. Maybe when Blundell was writing the Black Ops 3 storyline, he knew about the incorporation of blood vials into Kino Der Toten, liked the idea, and then brought it back in Origins and Mob of the Dead. That could very well be the case. We're going to have to wait and see, because this, of course, is very difficult to talk about when we don't even know the true purpose or potential of the blood vials. We just imagine that they'll be very important. Let me know what you think. This video doesn't have a grand conclusion. This video doesn't come to some overarching theory that strings Kino Der Toten and Origins together. I just found this to be a pretty interesting thing that Richtofen said, and I thought you guys might find it interesting as well. We're going to wrap up the video. If you enjoyed it, leave a like, maybe possibly subscribe. I'm always covering the zombie storyline and looking for new and interesting things like this. And if you enjoyed it, I'm sure you'll enjoy the next video. Have a wonderful day, and bye.